What up wolves, Blade Master here, and this is going to be a video on how to counter Parthia with Baktria. Now if you want to jump straight into the replay, then look at the top right of your screen now. I'll just put a thing there so you can just skip ahead. But I'm going to be talking for maybe a couple of minutes about why use Baktria and why is it a good build against Parthia, or how you can make a good build against Parthia. So first of all, let's see why I'm talking about Baktria when there are 10 other factions that can beat Parthia much easier. So if someone's going to take Parthia, then you'd be thinking like, why use Baktria when you can use Sparta or RDI or a lot of other factions that are more suited to countering the heavy horse threat that Parthia brings. And that's for one main reason. In tournaments and even in quick battles, if you choose to bring Baktria, or if you choose Baktria as the first pick, your opponent will, 90% of the time, your opponent will go straight to Parthia. And that's because Parthia historically has been, the best counter to Baktria. Even in previous patches, whenever someone used to take Baktria, his opponent would go ahead and choose Parthia. And more often than not, the person who chose Parthia would win. And the reason for that is because they've got, while they are a very good faction and they're capable of defeating most factions, they're especially suited to defeating Baktria, and that's because they've got the exact tools necessary for defeating that faction. Shock Cavalry, which is just really deadly against Bactrian Noble Horse. Eastern Cataphracts are among the most cost-effective shock cavalry in the game, especially now. One of the few units that do have trample still. And on top of that, they've got Camel Cataphracts, one of the units I don't really rate. But they do have Royal Cataphracts, which is just really deadly, and you can expect like 300 plus kills from them. And if they manage to get a proper charge on Bactrian Noble Horse, they will slaughter them within a minute or so. And you can't say that about any other cavalry except maybe like nomadic factions. On top of that, they've also got very good selections in melee cav. They have both Median and Noble Blood cav. You can see that Median cav also has 15 bonus versus large. So both of these cavalry units are very, very solid picks. They might lose to Bactrian Noble Horse in an extended combat, but they will be more than enough to hold them out so that you can bring reinforcements. In terms of missile cavalry, they outmatch the Bactrians in every regard. They've got mercenary Sarmatian horse archers just like the Bactrians. And their highest tier cavalry units is the Noble Horse Archer. Again, this is not a unit that I really rate all that high, but people bring them and they manage to do really well with them. And if you're going to go toe to toe with the Bactrian Horse Archer armies, or not Bactrian Horse Archer armies, when you go up against a Bactrian build, usually they bring 3 to 4 mercenary Sarmatian Horse Archers. And if you want to counter that, you've got the perfect counter in bringing Armored Horse Archers. Finally, their melee infantry, Parthian swordsmen, can beat Thorax swordsmen, which is the go-to melee infantry that Baktria has. In terms of spears too, they have great options. Persian hoplites are very strong. And finally, in terms of missile infantry, they again outmatch Baktria because they've got this unit, the Parthian foot archers, for 400 cost, and they're just really deadly, very cost-effective units. Now that I've said all this about Parthia, let's go ahead to the battle, and I'm going to show you what build I've brought and how that's going to counter Parthia. So welcome back, guys. Now, I said that I was going to show you guys my Baktria, anti-Parthia Baktria build, and here it is. Ta-da! This is 4 Bactrian Royal Guard and a couple of Thuria Spears, and I've got 2 mercenary Syrian archers and 1 Persian Light Archer. Finally, I brought 4 Bactrian Noble Horse and 3 mercenary Sarmatian Horse Archers. Now let me try and explain why this could be such a good build against Parthia, against traditional Parthia builds. The main killing power, or the go-to guys in your army, are going to be these 4 Bactrian Royal Guard. Now, when you come up against a regular Parthian army, you can be rest assured that your opponent would most likely bring around 3 to 4 Parthian swordsmen. And if your opponent knows his stuff, he usually wouldn't bring more than that amount, because he knows the killing power in his army is going to be from his cataphracts, so he wants to spend as much money on them as possible. And if that means that he has to sacrifice a couple of his swords, then so be it. Parthian swordsmen aren't the greatest swordsmen. They can beat Thorax swordsmen, but you can be rest assured that someone bringing Parthia will never go sword heavy. Now, the other option that your Parthian opponent can bring are what my opponent has brought here, Philippator, who's a very competent player. He'll bring a mixture of Persian hoplites and mercenary hoplites, or he might just bring 3 mercenary hoplites. And he'd obviously bring at least 4 Parthian foot archers, just like my opponent has brought here, because they're so cost effective and because they're so deadly. Now, why would these 4? Why would you ever want to bring Bactrian Royal Guard? I mean, these guys are elite tier spear units. Aren't they supposed to suck? Well, no, they don't. Not in this patch. The thing about them is, while they might do terribly against any other factions, rather mid-tier infantry, like even against, other than Thorax swordsmen, if you're going to put them up against like a chosen sword band, any barbarian mid-tier unit, or especially a Rome mid-tier unit, they're going to suck. But when it comes to Parthian swordsmen, who aren't very great melee infantry in themselves, these guys can actually outlast them. And chances are your opponent is not even going to bring many Parthian swordsmen. Chances are your opponent is more than likely going to bring what my opponent over here has brought. He's going to bring a spear line so that he can save some money, and he can also have a pretty decent holding power in his army so that his cataphracts can kill off your cavalry troops and then rear charge your troops, while these guys do a much better job at holding your infantry than his swordsmen would ever do. So, against mid-tier spears, these Bactrian Royal Guard are just going to beast. They will destroy mercenary hoplites. They will destroy, absolutely wreck Persian hoplites. And so you don't really need to worry about the melee combat not going in your favor. So now that's one bonus for you. The second huge bonus, and this is where they truly shine, is that with Baktria, the other decent spear troops that you have are Scale, Thorax, or Scale. I don't know why they call themselves Scale. Anyways, the other decent option that you have in spear troops are the Scale Thorax hoplites. Now, those troops are heavily armored, but the thing is, they don't have great morale. They have like something like 55, something like that. I mean, they're cheap. They're like 680, whatever cost. And if you're going to face up against some of the deadliest shock cavalry in the game, i.e. Royal Cataphracts and Eastern Cataphracts, just even one charge to the rear of those Scale Thorax hoplites, and those guys are dead. If they don't get obliterated in the charge, they will suffer enough casualties at such a short period of time that they will begin to rout because their morale isn't great. Now, where these guys shine is that they have 65 health, 70 base morale, and 105 armor. So they are incredibly powerful units and very, very good units at just holding out. On top of that, they also have expert charge defense, like you would expect any elite tier unit, any elite tier spear unit. So they are basically the only spear troop that can hold out and that can actually perform well, and that can forgive you if you manage to get rear charged by Parthian cataphracts. So that's one of my main reasons why I decided to bring these Bactrian Royal Guard. Finally, I brought 3 Sarmatian horse archers because what would a Bactrian army be without Sarmatian horse archers? You obviously need these guys to start firing onto those Parthian or Eastern cataphracts. I've also brought 4 Bactrian noble horse because, and you might think, why fight fire with fire, especially when the fire you're talking about are Parthian cataphracts. The reason I brought these guys and not the cheaper, citizen cav is only because these guys will do a better job at holding out these cataphracts. Now, they might last less than a minute, but just, maybe a minute is more than enough for these Thurea spears, who you have to keep right next to your cavalry, to start firing 2 or 3 javelin volleys, and that will severely damage these Eastern cataphracts. Now, let's pause this for a second. The final thing that's the final component of this army that I think is good for dealing against any Parthian army is that you have these 2 mercenary Syrian archers, not horse archers, mercenary Syrian foot archers. Now, these guys, as we all know, are very heavily armored, so that's going to help them a significant amount when they're going in this skirmish battle that's inevitably going to happen. Parthian foot archers have really, really high melee attack, not melee attack, missile damage, and as you can see, they even have precision shot, which turns their missile damage up to 47. Now, that will be deadly to basically any archer troop or any troop, whether it's infantry or archers or whatever. But against heavily armored, comparatively heavily armored archers like these mercenary Syrians, they will do a much better job at holding out against these types of forces. Now, I did bring a build similar to this in a previous battle that I fought against Memkin, and that didn't work. And the only reason that didn't work is because I brought a line of Baktria Peltas, because I thought, okay, they're also armored, so they'll do okay. But the thing is, against these Parthian foot archers, you just can't underestimate them. You know, you need to destroy them as soon as possible. So you can't bring Baktria Peltas, because within a minute or so, despite their great armor, they will die. So bringing these Syrian archers, even if these guys do get slaughtered in the skirmish battle, they will inflict enough casualties for these Parthian foot archers to drop significantly in number, so they wouldn't be such a threat to your Bactrian Royal Guard. Because despite the fact that these guys have 105 armor, as the match wears on, you don't want to be facing up against these Parthian foot archers. So now, enough of the extended lecture. Let's go ahead and actually no, there's one small bit. I forgot to take a look at my opponent's build. And this is a very traditional Parthian build, and that's one of the main reasons why I decided to use this commentary as more of a tutorial style commentary more than just a regular replay. My opponent has brought a couple of Eastern Cataphracts on either flank, so two Eastern Cataphracts, a total of 4 Eastern Cataphracts, 2 on my left, 2 on my right. And he's also brought one Camel Spearman each. Again, this is not a unit that I would really rate. I don't really like them, and they dive really far too quickly. The only reason he brought them, he said, was because he doesn't have Beasts of War DLC, so he wanted to bring Camel Cataphracts, but so that he could get that whole fear penalty against my cavalry. But since he didn't have them, he brought these guys. Now, okay, yeah, it's not 100% the most effective Parthian build because of these guys. That's around 800 talents wasted. So for my purist viewers, yeah, this isn't like the perfect Parthian army, but it is very close. He's brought a couple of Parthian horse archers and 1 noble horse archer general. Again, this is something that we see more and more people bring. 3 horse archers, and including one of those heavily armored noble horse archers who can be pretty deadly to skirmish troops. And you can see he's already obtained a pretty favorable position. He's brought 4 Parthian foot archers, obviously, and he's brought a total of 4 Persian hoplites, and I believe it's a couple of mercenary hoplites. So now without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the action. You can see I've aimed my mercenary Syrian archers onto his Parthian foot archers, and they will start taking casualties. Remember, I'm charging uphill, so this is not very favorable for me. But yeah, my Bactrian Royal Guard are going to be engaged with his hoplites and his Persian hoplites. His Persian hoplites are starting to die already. And you can see my Bactrian noble horse has been attacked in the rear by his Eastern Cataphracts, and he's immediately brought his Persian hoplites to support. But I've also got my Thuria spears here. And Thuria spears, even though I didn't get a good javelin toss with them, the fact is that they managed to hold out against them. But in general, this is not really going well for me. Now his camel spearmen have died, and obviously, I mean, I don't really rate them, and that's for a good reason. They just died there. His Parthian foot archers have managed to get rear charges onto my mercenary Syrian archers, so not looking good for me at all. But here's where these guys excel. I've put these guys, put one of my Bactrian Royal Guard into hoplite wall, so that increases their bracing. And even though they've gotten rear charged, they're obviously going to hold out for just a really, really long time. I completely forgot about my Scythian horse archers so far, but now I've managed to bring them back into the battle, and they're going to start firing into this general blob here, these Eastern Cataphracts and stuff like that. Mercenary Syrian archers are getting decimated here. They didn't manage to do too much. Again, my thought process behind them is right. I'm completely sure about that. But yeah, he just managed to outflank me with his cavalry really early on, and as a result, my archers are starting to die. He is ganging up on my Bactrian Royal Guard, in every situation possible. But take a look at how many losses they've got: 48 kills and like 11 losses. So it just goes to show that they're just incredibly strong units, and they're not susceptible to a charge at all. More and more of my Bactrian Royal Guard are just getting bogged down by these Persian hoplites, but these Eastern Cataphracts are forced to start attacking my spear troops because they basically have no other targets left. But once they do, they're going to have a very hard time trying to punch through these Bactrian Royal Guard. My Bactrian noble horse is starting to die here, but I've managed to bring 3 mercenary Scythians here who are just going to get some rear shots in. Meanwhile, I managed to get one of my Bactrian noble horse into his archer line, which is a huge boost for me because they could have done a whole bunch of damage, and thankfully they haven't. I've managed to rout all of them, and here's where the difference in quality comes to play. Now, I'm going to be able to rear charge these mercenary hoplites. I would expect, yeah, there we go. We're going to rear charge these mercenary hoplites, and it doesn't look like it's a good charge at all. But the morale penalty has taken effect. They're already at shaken, and I'm going to do the same thing here. So these Persian hoplites will start wavering. They're good at at holding out in the front, but they are very susceptible to morale shocks. Now these Eastern Cataphracts got a sweet charge onto the rear of my Baktria Royal Guard, but now all I'm going to do is turn off formation attack and then just let them loose on these Eastern Cataphracts, and if need be, I'll just use my Baktria Noble Horse to bog them down a little bit. My Thuria Spears will last forever against these Persian hoplites. I don't really care who's going to win this battle. It's not going to be crucial to the outcome of the entire battle in general. Because most of my army is composed of these guys, these Baktria Royal Guard, who've already killed out a lot of these spear troops and have gained some experience in the process. His Eastern Cataphracts have gotten bogged down by my Baktria Royal Guard, my Baktria Noble Horse. I should move my, that's what I'm going to do here. I'm moving in with my Baktria Royal Guard onto these Eastern Cataphracts. I'm going to try, I didn't micro the best in this game. But, if I did, I could have caught those Eastern Cataphracts and just within a couple of seconds, they would have died, for sure. They're already at pretty low HP because, they've been shot at by arrows and they've been caught by Baktria Noble Horse. And, if I managed to get a charge in on them, then they would have died. But honestly, at this point, I really don't even need to charge or be aggressive at all. Because, and you can see these Thuria Spears, that's their usefulness coming into play. They're just, even if you manage to get them, into a bit of empty space for a couple of seconds, they'll prove their worth. There you can see they're getting some sweet javelin volleys onto those Eastern Cataphracts, who've only got 40 kills. And, they could have got, 200 kills, but it doesn't matter because those 200 kills would most likely have been just on archers and maybe on my Baktria Noble Horse. At the end of the day, when all your Parthian opponent has left are his Cataphracts and all you have left are your Baktria Royal Guard, I would hazard that you would win the battle just because these spear troops are designed for taking out cavalry. They're heavily armored, their health is great, base morale is amazing, and if you can even put them on hoplite wall and keep them on this super bracing mode. If you can manage to micro those units right. Now, my opponent only has one Noble Horse Archer General here. You can see that he actually played really well, and if anything, he might have even been able to out micro me. But usually, and this is the case for 90% of battles, usually the guy with the more numbers wins. But in this case, it is more a case of quality over quantity. So it's a costly victory for me, but my main troops, whom I was really hoping would win me the battle, hardly got injured. 69 kills on one of my Baktria Royal Guard, 101 on the other, 148 and 146. And look at the casualties on them. Most of them are almost at least 3/4 strength. Sure, my mercenary Syrian archers and my Persian light archers died. Sure, my Thuria Spears, one of them got slaughtered by just getting 30 kills, and one of them did okay. And one of my Baktria Noble Horse did okay too. But at the end of the day, even if all these guys got 30 kills each and all of them suffered a terrible death, and as long as they managed to kill off, as long as your Parthian opponents' hoplites and Parthian foot archers have died, you would have won the game. In my opinion, you would have won the game, because I would never put someone who has full strength Cataphracts to win against someone who has full strength Baktria Royal Guard. And that's the reason why I think this Baktria build is a very strong counter to Parthia. Let me know if you guys think my reasoning is right, and if you happen to come across a Parthian army and you want to bring this Baktria build and you bring it, let me know what your experiences are with it. Anyways, guys, hope you found this episode of this replay informative, and stay tuned for more. Peace.